The Witch Wave is brought to you by Wiser Books. Wiser Books has been publishing esoteric and occult teachings from around the world since 1957. Wiser specializes in a wide range of topics, including astrology, tarot, witchcraft, magic, Eastern thought, and Western mystery traditions. Wiser Books authors include Teresa Reed, Amy Blackthorne, Rachel Pollack, Mary Kay Greer, Lon Milo Duquette, Stephanie Rose Bird, Judica Illes, Courtney Weber, Cindy Brannon, Lilith Dorsey, and many more. And you probably recognize several of those names because they've been guests on The Witch Wave. Some of the most important titles published by Wiser include 78 Degrees of Wisdom, The Wiser Tarot, Hecate, Understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot, Italian Folk Magic, Existential Kink, Tarot for the Hard Work, Queering the Tarot, Entering Hecate's Garden, Heal the Witch Wound, A Tea Witch's Grimoire, Backwoods Witchcraft, Mexican Sorcery, the Marie Laveau Voodoo Grimoire, and so many more. Visit www.redwheelwiser.com to shop their full collection and use code WAVE30 at checkout to receive 30% off your order. And don't forget to sign up for their awesome newsletter to receive discounts, updates about new titles, special collections, and more. Again, that's www.redwheelwiser.com and use code WAVE30 for 30% off. Hey there. So people are always asking me how they can get more Witch Wave, how they can work with me, how they can find magical community. And my answer is join the Witch Wave Patreon. There is where you'll get bi-weekly bonus Witch Wave Plus episodes, as well as ad-free Witch Wave episodes and detailed show notes for all. The Witch Wave Patreon is also where I lead a monthly online magical ritual, which you can attend live or watch the recording of at your convenience. And that's available for members at all tiers. And then rewards for some other tiers also include magical merch and contests where you can win Witchly prizes, as well as getting early heads up about my workshops before they sell out, and opportunities to get magical one-on-one guidance from me. And all backers get access to our exclusive digital coven, where you can connect to a community of other wonderful Witch Wave witches around the world. So head on over to patreon.com/witchwave and sign up. It's a marvelous way to get more magic in your life and to support the show. Thank you so much.
The world is filled with bewitching people, and you might be one too. Welcome to the podcast where art is magic is real, and reality is stranger than dreams. I'm Pam Grossman, and this is The Witch Wave.
Hello, and welcome to the Witch Wave. I love May, and I love Taurus season, and I love that this month brings me a couple of opportunities to see some of you in person. Yes! This coming Monday, May 18th, I will be helping tarot trailblazer Lindsay Mack celebrate their new book, Tarot for the Wild Soul, at Book Club Bar here in Bushwick, Brooklyn. And just note, it is the new location of Book Club Bar. And we'll be in conversation all about Lindsay's book and tarot and magic, and it is going to be scrumptious. Now, I'm told this event is sold out already, but there is a wait list, so do join that if you so desire. There's a link over at pamgrossman.com/events or at my Phantasmophile Instagram bio. And then save the date of Saturday, May 30th, because I will be celebrating the blue moon over at the arts complex Mildred's Lane, which is just outside Narrowsburg, New York. And this is such an amazing space. It's kind of an elegant art farm out in the wilderness. And that night, there will be a conversation about magic and art with me, and then I'll be leading a blue moon ritual. More details on all of that will be coming very soon, at which point I'll be listing that event in the usual places. And as always, the best way to find out about all of these types of gatherings is to sign up for my newsletter at pamgrossman.com. Now, for those following along closely to the magical chronicles of Pam Grossman, you will know that I have been in a bit of a state of suspension when it comes to my own, career, creative life, what have you. And it's not that I haven't been making things at all. Obviously, I've been cooking up this show for you and teaching and had the very exciting Rocky Horror Ritual experience. But after Magic Maker came out almost 7 months ago now, if you can believe it, and doing the book tour and the more concentrated promo for it for those few months, I found myself at the end of last year feeling just like super depleted. And my brain kept spinning and asking, what's next? What's next? What should I do next? But my body and my spirit have been like, you are not supposed to know right now. Just be. And look, I've got a lot of projects sort of simmering in various cauldrons, but I haven't quite had the clarity around which one or ones to fully throw myself into yet. And for the last 5 or so months, I've been feeling sort of like agitated and impatient about it. And I've pulled cards around it, and those of you Patreon members who listen to Witch Wave Plus episodes know that I've pulled the Riddle card from the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck over and over and over again, like it's literally a cosmic joke at this point. And the Riddle card is a card of mystery, of the unknown, of not having the answer. And so I've been trying to make peace with that and accept it. And I've been trying to listen to my own advice, which I have written in Magic Maker. I write in that very book about divine timing and the seasonality of our creativity and how crucial it is to let the field be fallow and to rest and recharge and regenerate. And I know this, and I say this to other people when they ask me for advice about their own fallow periods or periods of unknowing. But it's not always easy for me to put into practice. Sometimes I can. Sometimes I'm in a state of surrender and acceptance and peace about it. But then there are other times when I confess I've felt frustrated, and it feels like being sort of stuck, even as I know that things are moving as they're meant to under the surface. And honestly, I think that's part of the process too. Embracing that frustration or that agitation, embracing these growing pains. Something in me is percolating, and I sense that I'm getting ready to shapeshift. And just like when birds molt or snakes shed their skin, Transitioning into a new form isn't always pretty or comfortable, but all beings do it. So what I've been working on lately is trying to accept that I don't know exactly what's next for me, but I'm doing what I'm able to do in order to usher in this new phase and get myself prepared for it as best I can. Rather than trying to force anything to happen, I'm focusing on clearing the path and this vessel of myself to receive what will eventually be ready to come through. And what that looks like in practice is embracing rest, engaging with beauty and nature and reaching out to friends, and crucially, doing some major cleaning, clearing, and decluttering in my physical space here in the material world. And I realized that my primary altar in my bedroom had gotten pretty dusty, and the altar cloth was covered in candle wax, and it all just felt kind of inert. And so last week, I put aside an afternoon and I gave all my deity figures and magical tools a bath. And I traded out the altar cloth for a clean, new, gorgeous one. And I took away some items off the altar that felt magically stagnant. And one of the objects I took away felt like a particularly big deal, which is I've had a copy of my first book, Waking the Witch, on that altar since it came out in 2019. We're talking 7 years ago. And I had originally put it there to charge it up and to ask Spirit to help it reach the readers it's meant to reach so that it can do the most good in the world. And I still have that intention for that book, and that doesn't stop just because it's not on the altar anymore. But physically and magically, I just suddenly felt the urge to make space for something new to go there. And in case you're wondering, my book Magic Maker is on a separate altar, which is devoted to Mercury, since he's the guiding spirit of that book, and that all still feels active. But yes, I took Waking the Witch off my primary altar, and it felt a little bit big to do this. But my intuition told me it is time. So as to what symbolically or literally will occupy that space where Waking the Witch was, I don't know yet. But I love that there's now space for something new to come through. And I've also started decluttering drawers and throwing some things away and donating other things. And over the weekend, I did this big clearing of my bag and my wallet, just throwing away old receipts and stale gum and old matches and all of that kind of debris. And as I did so, I discovered at the bottom of my bag a gift certificate to the Strand that I was given 3 years ago and never used, which is very unlike me because if you give me a gift certificate to a bookstore, that thing will not last long. But I checked the balance online and sure enough, this gift certificate is full. And I also discovered at the bottom of my bag the business card of a handywoman service, which we very much need for our house upstate right now and have been having trouble getting handy men to get back to us, just saying. But I have a good feeling about this handywoman who I'll be calling soon. So already, physically clearing space is bringing in a new sense of excitement and abundance and just all around good vibes. And another thing I've been doing to prepare myself for this next phase is that I've been reading the writing of today's guest, Aidan Wachter. Now, that name might ring a bell for some of you because he was recommended by a prior Witch Wave guest, the strength magician Coach Claymore. And something about Aidan's name just blazed in me when it was initially mentioned on that episode. And so I ordered his first book, which is called 6 Ways. And it had been sitting on my towering to-read pile ever since. But just a couple weeks ago, I suddenly felt this urge to pick it up and read it. And let me tell you, this book has reignited so much of my excitement about magic, and I've started using several of his techniques in my own practice and can already feel a big shift from them. And as luck, or more accurately, spirit would have it, I spontaneously reached out to Aidan on Instagram because there happened to be a last-minute gap in our production schedule. And Aidan, who rarely looks at Instagram, just so happened to see my message and agreed to be on this episode. And so clearly, Aidan's work is meant not only for me right now, but for all of you listening as well. And I am so thrilled to share this inspiring conversation with you. But before we get to that, first, let's check and see what's come through on the Witch Wire.
Who is it?
Witches!
Hi Pam, I hope you're well. My name is Jenny and I'm sending this to you from the countryside in the middle of England. And I just finished listening to your Witchwave Plus episode about the forest and your beautiful encounter with the deer skeleton and how you used it as an offering to Artemis. And it got me thinking about what wildlife do I feel strongly pulled towards, and it is birds. And there's a sort of strange history in my family of bird watching, going back through various generations. And, you know, we're all from Scotland, and there's nothing quite like watching birds across the lochs. And birds feature heavily in my garden, but also in my parents' garden. And we live near a quite a significant bird watching habitat in the UK. And I've volunteered with bird watching organisations in my area before. But I'm stumped as to which gods, goddesses, mythical beings are associated with birds and how I might be able to make a similar offering as you did. This is getting quite long, so I shall stop it. But thank you so much. I love the show, and thank you for listening.
Hi, Jenny. It's so lovely to hear from you. Thank you for this message. And yes, just to catch Witchwave listeners up, on a recent episode of Witchwave Plus, which you can hear in its entirety via the Witchwave Patreon, I talked about how behind our house upstate, I found a deer skeleton. And because deer are so sacred to me and to my primary goddess, Artemis, I felt compelled to do a ritual for it. And so I encircled it with wildflowers and did some singing and blessing. And then, with my hands covered for sanitary reasons, of course, I felt called to bring the deer skull and jawbones over to the Artemis statue, which overlooks our yard. And I lay them at her feet with more flowers and did more ritual. And the whole thing felt extremely meaningful and like a deep honor and honoring. And just to say, this encounter didn't feel like a bad omen, which is what the internet tells you a dead deer can mean. It felt like a way to honor my goddess, and it also felt like an opportunity to support a divine creature in their own shapeshifting as it enters a new phase of being in the afterlife or underworld or unified field or whatever words we want to use. And frankly, it also felt somehow linked to my own shapeshifting that I'm experiencing right now. This phase of decomposition and rebirth that I'm kind of straddling myself at the moment. So anyway, yes, for me and my own practice, deer and Artemis and myself are inextricably linked. But that doesn't mean that everyone should do what I did or has the same associations and intuition that I had about this encounter. And as today's guest, Aidan Wachter, would probably say, it's up to you, ultimately, to figure out how best to work with or honor these bird connections in your life. Now, I will say, birds are associated with a long tradition of what's called augury. And every time I say that word now, I feel a kind of sticking point, because when I was recording the audiobook for Magic Maker, the director insisted that I pronounce that word augury. And so that's how I say it throughout the entire audiobook. But I always used to say augury, and I've come to learn that either pronunciation is acceptable. So there you have it, augury, augury. But no matter how you pronounce it, augury is that practice of reading signs and omens, and it traditionally had to do with reading the signs of birds, which birds appeared, and when, and how, and what those encounters might be telling us. And as I write in Magic Maker, the word auspicious comes from the word augury. So perhaps you might be interested in learning about or intuitively developing your own practice of augury with birds. And if that does resonate, I will say that Apollo, the god of sun and poetry and music, is also considered a god of prophecy, and he is very much associated with augury. And I also feel compelled to mention the Morrigan, the Celtic goddess who some think of as a war deity, but she is also considered a goddess of fate and protection, and she is specifically associated with ravens and crows. But Apollo and the Morrigan are just the tip of the iceberg, and there are many other deities associated with birds. However, do bear in mind that the birds themselves are spirits. And different birds are associated with different energies and messages. So if Apollo or the Morrigan or other avian-oriented gods aren't vibing with you for whatever the reason, simply connecting to the birds themselves and developing your own practice of engaging with them and learning what they have to teach you will be worthwhile. You don't need a specific deity to engage in this magic. And so to start, I might suggest figuring out some offerings that you can give to the birds with the invitation for them to work with you more deeply. This can be as simple as feeding them more consistently and more intentionally, and then asking for them to communicate with you however they may. Now, maybe you set up a new bird feeder or bird bath or bird altar where you can leave out some seed or nuts or water for them. Maybe you become a member or volunteer at a bird sanctuary that you love. But it's as simple and as complex as mindfully entering into an enchanted relationship with them and then being open to whatever wisdom they care to share with you. And as with any relationship, this will take some time to cultivate. It will take attention and intention and patience. But I am sure that there are things you'll learn from this practice as you go. I hope that's helpful, and I so look forward to hearing how your magical birding takes wing. Now, on to my guest. Aidan Wachter is an animist magician who has been actively involved in magical practice since the 1980s. His work reflects a wide-ranging, eclectic, and non-dogmatic approach with influences from many paths. His books include 6 Ways, Approaches and Entries for Practical Magic, Weaving Fate, Hypersigils Changing the Past and Telling True Lies, and Changeling, a Book of Qualities. His writings and extensive Patreon teachings focus on the practice of the craft as a learnable set of skills that can be developed rather than innate talents that must be inherited or granted to the seeker. His books are field guides rather than philosophy, and I can tell you as a recent smitten reader myself, they are accessible and potent and wise and wildly illuminating. Aidan joined me remotely from his home in the Pacific Northwest, and you can watch the video of our conversation over on my YouTube channel, which is at Phantasmophile. Aidan Wachter, welcome to the Witch Wave.
Thank you for having me, Pam. It's a total pleasure on my part.
I am so overjoyed that you're here. I just finished reading your first book, 6 Ways, Approaches and Entries for Practical Magic. And I was starting to gush a little bit before we started recording, but I just want you to know, look, I read a lot of books on the craft. I've been at this for a long time. And I know this book has been out for a while, but I just have to say, it came into my life at exactly the moment I needed it, of course, because it is so exquisitely beautiful. It made me feel like I was falling back in love with magic. And I'm always in love with it, but the way you write is so gorgeous. And I learned a lot from it. And I'm just so thrilled to talk to you about it. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for all the kind words. That's, of course, what one would love to hear. So thank you.
You're welcome. And we're doing something a little bit different. Like often when people come on the show, it's because they have something new to promote, but it's my show. And so I just like to talk to people when I want to talk to them. I know you have several other books that have come out since, and I cannot wait to read them, but I want to be transparent with our listeners and our viewers. I have not yet had the pleasure of reading your other 2 books, though absolutely please feel free to bring into our chat any material from that too that intuitively wants to be brought in. But let's talk about 6 Ways. I'm so intrigued by this title, and I'm so intrigued by this overall paradigm that you bring into the book, because I was taught to cast circle in a specific tradition. I do 7 directions style.
Mm-hmm.
Other people cast it 5 directions style. Here, you're talking about magic and orientation toward the magical world being a 6 direction style. So Can you just talk about the title of the book by way of introduction?
Yeah, so the actual language for the title of the book came from a British witch, Daniel Brand Griffith. Please have that name right. It's been a long time since I've said his name. And he had a book, I think, called About the Stang and the 6 Ways. So it was about British traditional witchcraft symbolism. But I'd been using that form for a long time because I came up through Starhawk, who's been on your show.
Hero, goddess.
And kind of bastardized ceremonial magic because I'd never really kind of jived with it, but I used what was there because there wasn't a lot there when I started. And so I've always called the quarters, and I've always done it in a pretty Wiccan state, even when I was heavily into chaos magic and other stuff. It's always that's been present.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, reading on, I think probably Mongolian shamanism a million years ago, and that whole discussion of kind of that central pole or the central tree, or we see the world tree in a lot of systems, the Norse is the most famous, probably to listeners here. I was like, oh, that's the other piece of this. That's what actually locates us in the world that we're in. It's not just these kind of elemental powers or directional powers. It's like we're also held between the world above and the world below.
Yes.
And as magicians, we're like innately connected because we're built of the elements physically and structurally, but we're also connected to those higher and lower powers.
Yes.
And that's to me, that 6 ways is like it pins you right where you are, wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can remember that you are surrounded by these elemental powers, the underworld, the world above, and that you're held right in that. It's like they've got you all the time.
Yes.
It opens everything up.
And what I love about that model is that the center, which is the 7th direction that I was taught to call in, the 4 elements and directions, and then the chthonic entities below and the celestial entities above, and then the center, which is like the liminal, the all, the mystery, Hecate, all of those other beautiful words and names. But in your paradigm, like, we are the center. It's kind of implicit, and I think that's really beautiful.
Absolutely. I actually put it back up on my Patreon years ago in Facebook when I had a group there. It just hit me one day that like there was a discussion going on about kind of circle casting and the LBRP.
And tell listeners what the LBRP is.
Okay, so the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram is basically the most basic kind of first ritual you learn coming from Golden Dawn systems of magic.
And Thelema and all of that.
And Thelema and all the things that came from that. It's an odd one if you're a pagan because it's, occultist bastardized Kabbalah.
Yes.
So you've got that chunk of appropriation going on continuously there. And then you're calling in these archangels. And in my experience, I became kind of connected to 2 of the archangels, one more than the other. The other 2 were just kind of there. But I spent about 7 years playing with just that ritual framework. Like, does it matter who's in the quarters?
Right. And we're talking, just to orient people, we're talking about casting sacred space, we're talking about casting circle, and so on. So there are these different practices.
Right. So in this kind of Golden Dawn approach, you're connecting from the above to the below as different names of gods, and then you're putting these archangels in the quarters, the 4 archangels, the big ones, related to the elemental powers. So they become kind of the intermediaries for that. But I figured out like you could do all sorts of stuff. And this is kind of a standard chaos magic approach, which was like, this thing works, but why?
Yes.
Because it's not about the angelic names, and it's not about the Hebrew, and it's not about this bastardized Kabbalah. There's something happening in that framework. And to me, the thing that if you took it out, which was that central line, that above and below, which is, I guess, the middle pillar exercise is what it's called in that ritual.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it fell apart.
Mm.
And so that just kind of sucked me into that whole thing. And it's always been very present. And in that video, what I did was kind of explained what the ritual was to me after just many, many years, and what all the rituals, like the Stars of the 6 Ways, in 6 Ways, is another version of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's this process of you're basically saying, hey, there's all of this amazing power and energy and life all around me, all the directions and above and below. And I stand at the crossroads when I invoke them, and I am that.
Yes.
And that to me is what a magician or a witch is that we're crossroads beings. And this is why so many of these kind of approaches and systems worship or work with these crossroad entities, right?
Yes.
Which are different frames for that. And functionally, it's, to me, we're aligning with that actual job. If you're going to do this, you're becoming like a human embodiment of those energies and entities.
Yes, we're becoming liminal beings, or we're claiming our own liminality.
Right.
And yeah, I wanted to start us talking about the name of this book, because what I love about it, there's so much I love about this book, but it seems to me to be such an incredible distillation of the, and I don't mean this in a reductive way, but like the basic or fundamental principles of what magic is, how we make it, different techniques, and yet it is not linked to one specific tradition, which you are not appropriating anything or white labeling anything. You cite your sources. This is very footnoted, which I appreciate. But you basically are saying, listen, I've studied all of these different paths, and these are the actual techniques and tools which are pretty universal. And so no matter what your background is, your gender is, your orientation is, this is going to work for you.
Right.
Do you think that's a fair assessment?
That was absolutely what I was hoping to do.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the intro because, I wrote it in 2015 through 2017 and it came out in 2016 or 18, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of looking at all sorts of stuff and there's tons of it. And I was like, in all of these books, there's a few little pieces that are really useful to people. Why can't I put all of those that I've actually had time in with into one place?
Yes.
Because that's what I would give to somebody. It's like, just start. Doesn't matter. It's not a go in order thing. It's like, find a piece that works for you and go with it.
Yes, exactly.
And a lot of that also, which is relevant, I'd love to just throw out there for folks that are new to this stuff, even though I think most of your folks are not, is realize that we're in an information overload phase of all this stuff and everything, not just this stuff. And you need very few skills unless you are some kind of a professional generalist or a specialist in a lot of stuff. And that's one of the big things that Six Ways is kind of pointing to, I think, repeatedly, is like, hey, you don't need all of this. You need 2 or 3 of these that work for you.
Yes.
And you're good to go.
Yes. It's a very smart book, and it's also a very friendly book. It feels like it is. I will just definitively say this is a book I'm now going to be recommending to people who certainly are just starting their magical practice, but also who want to re-engage or deepen their practice. I have been at this a very long time, and the way you write got me excited about magic again. And I'm always excited about it, but it just kind of refreshed it for me. It made me feel renewed. It reminded me of things that I already know. It taught me new things. I'm so grateful for this book, like truly, Aidan. And my only anxiety that I'm having talking to you is like, I feel like I could talk to you about it for 19 hours. But we're just going to have to trust that we've been given the correct container for this conversation. And I want to talk to you about some of the terms that you use in the book. You use the word sorcery and sorcerer. You call yourself a dirt sorcerer or an sorcerer. Can you talk about why at the time the word sorcerer felt more resonant than witch or sorcery than witchcraft?
Yeah, so that's really a straight up thing on the witchcraft side. My initial contacts with systematized or formulatized stuff was the Spiral Dance when it came out in 79 when I was 12.
Yep, Starhawk.
And I was a 12-year-old suburban kid smoking a lot of weed and listening to a lot of music.
And where were you?
I was in the deep East Bay.
Okay.
I was out in the Contra Costa County. And I knew that it was relevant. And weirdly, I think I got affected more by the politic at that age because Reagan was kind of rolling into power.
Mm-hmm.
All of that stuff was happening initially, but I had like so many blocks against figuring out how to practice through that book, even though it's a great book to learn from.
Really?
It just wouldn't really gel for me. And I have all sorts of issues. I'm completely aphantasic. I have no inner screen, so I cannot visualize.
Wow.
I'm massively neurodivergent in ways that mean that like systematized things don't really work. Like I can't go step by step because you give me one step and I want to go and follow that train. But it was always on the shelf and I had it. And as I kind of came into magic, even though I'd been working what I considered to be witchcraft for a long time, with the rise of Wicca, the idea of traditional witchcraft didn't really exist at that time. So most everything was viewed as Wicca. I was seeing people who were deeply invested in a particular form that didn't really match what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so I felt very uncomfortable using the same term out of respect for them.
Yes.
It's like, I don't want to be kind of muddying the waters here, right?
If I could just jump in, Aidan, and say, like, I feel like you're pointing to something that I've had to navigate, which is I don't call myself Wiccan, even though so much of what I practice clearly is derived from these incredible people who codified this incredible way of orienting towards the worlds. out of respect for that tradition and that initiatory path, it just didn't feel like the right word for me. And so it feels like you were kind of trying to like unravel some of those same threads.
Yeah, and so I read Starhawk. I know Earth Power by Stuart Cunningham. The order gets a little sketchy in there time-wise. I know that was later than Starhawk. And I read book 4 by Crowley. And this was all when I was like 12, 13, I think.
Yeah.
And so all of it was like a little over my head. Crowley was way over my head.
Yeah.
Then I got involved with the Temple of Psychic Youth.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was a punk and I got into industrial music and I met some folks when I was 15 who turned me on to them, and I got the Gray Book.
Yep.
And the Gray Book is this really simple, magical practice of writing out your desires, and they focus on sex at that point in time just to get you hooked. Kind of knowing who their audience was, right?
Exactly.
Mostly young men.
Often tempting.
Charging it sexually and with blood and all this stuff. And so I didn't join the temple. I wasn't sending them in, but I was like, okay, this instruction is so clear, I can do it. And I began doing it.
Yes.
And things opened up. And then I was involved in chaos magic. I found chaos magic when I was 20. Peter Carroll, who just died a few days ago.
Yes.
His book, Liber Nolan Psychonaut, came out in 87, and I got it right away. And that kind of opened these doors for me, because most of the people I knew were Wiccans or Thelemites.
Yes. On that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. This episode of The Witch Wave is brought to you by Mithras Candle. Have you ever noticed a leafy face peering down at you from a medieval cathedral ceiling? Or spotted one swinging above a countryside pub? That's the Green Man, one of the oldest and most mysterious figures in the Western imagination. And he's been watching over wild places and hidden corners for centuries. My friends at Mithras Candle have conjured him into their latest limited edition offering, a sculptural Green Man candle made from fragrant North American beeswax, botanical dye, and a cotton wick. The collectible set comes with original box art by illustrator Maria Amaya and a card insert by Clint Marsh of Fiddler's Green. And the whole thing is sized like a tarot deck, so you can take it with you wherever the wild calls. The Green Man is the spirit of the earth, guardian of the forest, a bridge to an ancient, untamed realm. Call on him for renewal, vitality, and prosperity, for ecological attunement and earthly abundance, for the kind of wisdom you won't find in any library. This Green Man candle offering is a limited edition of 300, and pre-orders are open now, so don't wait on it. Head over to mithrascandle.com to bring the Green Man home. That's M as in magic, ITHRAS candle.com. Let the wild in. The Witch Wave is brought to you by BetterHelp. For some people, summer is their favorite season. Travel picks up, kids are out of school, and adventure is the focus. For others, juggling it all can be tough and can lead to overwhelm and counting down the minutes until the kids are back in school, or figuring out how to organize a summer schedule and not waste any of those precious days of sunshine. It can be a lot. And I totally relate to this because I feel like as children, we're trained to think of the summer as one long, languid break, a time to relax and recharge and recover from a busy school year. But as an adult, my summers are often way busier than other times of the year. We often travel to visit family and friends. There are usually events to attend or participate in, not to mention home repairs, gardening, hosting visitors, and all kinds of creative projects and commitments that demand attention. And if I'm not careful, before I know it, summer is over, and I'm left feeling like I didn't truly enjoy any downtime. But over the years, I've learned that if I don't make time to really lean into that sweet, slow summer energy, I get really burnt out. And so I've made it a point to say no to some invitations and so-called obligations and to schedule in unstructured summer time, even if it's just an hour here, an afternoon there. And I also make it a point to be as present as possible and indulge in the simple pleasures of the season, eating stone fruit, taking a walk to get some ice cream, doing a small but sincere ritual for the sacred sun. It's important that we take care of ourselves and take time to honor our spirits, even during busy summer months. And therapy can help people better understand their needs, feel more confident setting boundaries, and creating a version of summer that actually feels good. Therapy has truly taught me how to prioritize the things that feed my soul so I can then have more energy to share with others. And with online therapy, it's now more accessible than ever. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 6 million people globally. And it's super easy to get started. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. A short questionnaire helps identify your needs and preferences, and their over 12 years of experience and industry-leading match fulfillment rate means they typically get the match right the first time. But if you aren't happy with your match, you can switch to a different therapist at any time from their tailored recommendations. You don't have to say yes to everything this summer. Find support in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/witchwave. That's betterhelp.com/witchwave. Welcome back to the Witch Wave. And for those listening, let's just very quickly say chaos magic. I almost feel like it's postmodern magic. It's like whatever works, do it. In a way. How do you describe it?
In a way. I have a weird take on chaos magic from being fully considering myself a chaos magician for about 10 years. And then I don't anymore. So chaos magic to me was a deconstruction of Golden Dawn style magic while bringing in some other stuff, bringing in some folk magic, things like that. But it was really basically saying your belief system, this not like your belief in magic per se, this is what I got out of it. Your belief systems control your outcomes.
Yes.
And so a lot of people went heavily into that kind of postmodern magic, pop culture magic, working with, comic book characters, things like that. And I experimented with all of that.
Yep.
And it didn't really work for me. That didn't. But sigil magic did. What I learned about invocation from doing some things in that book did. And making things physically did.
Yes.
Like I learned that if I make something with my hands, everything works better.
100%. And Aidan, if I can quote you to you, because I feel like there's a line from your book where you write, do whatever makes sense to you, as in the end, you are the final arbiter of magical logic.
Yes.
And it feels to me like that is perhaps what you got out of chaos magic, this idea that ultimately your own associations, your own power is what's going to make the magic work. Am I right about that?
Yeah, because what had happened for me is I had Carol, but I didn't like his practices particularly. But then I went on a rampage back when books were impossible to get, and it was finding people who had books who would Xerox them for me from other countries sometimes and paying them to do this and send them to me. And so I got a few other things. And in one of those books, it was a book by Ray Sherwin. I'm not sure if it was the Book of Results or Theater of Magic. And these are not, in my mind, great books, but they were revolutionary at the time. But they're not anything to go spend a lot of money on. He said something along the lines of like, color correspondences are a thing and scent correspondences are a thing. but it's more important that they have an effect on you.
Yes.
And so my altar became this crazy purple and orange skulls and sigils thing that made no logical sense. There's no way somebody could walk in and go, tell me why these things are here. I don't know. They're here because they are magic to me. And when I switched to that approach, everything worked. So I was like, oh, okay, my inability to track all these tables of correspondences and the astrology and all that stuff because of my neurodivergence, which I now know is the cause, doesn't matter. All I have to do is figure out what does trip all those switches, right?
Let's pause there. This is so important because it's ultimately about trusting yourself, trusting your own personal relationship to capital S spirit.
Yes.
And trusting how things resonate in your own body. You and I really share this message of like witchcraft being an embodied practice. I say this all the time. And so if you are vibing, for lack of a better word, with something, that means it has efficacy for you. And so if it doesn't align with what some book tells you, that's okay, because it's ultimately about what is effective for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The kind of funny thing, and I talk about this in Weaving Fate, just to kind of bring that back around. So what I got from chaos magic really, and this is like the much later view, this is not where I was when I kind of started using the term sorcery, was I was like, so wait a second. So Golden Dawn stuff works, and Wicca works, and Grandma praying the rosary works.
Yep.
And the snake handlers, what they do works, and hoodoo works, and all the ATR works, and everything all of the shamans do, and all the Tibetans, and all of the indigenous folks, it all works, which means this is in all of us. And you just got to find what works for you. There is clearly no right way. There's not even anything close to that. There's just what's right for you.
Yes.
And so I began using the word sorcery because I was in New Orleans where I met Mark, who taught me jewelry. He and I, when I left one chaos magic organization, created another one for a while. I was in the Tulane library. This is, again, pre-modern internet stuff. And I got hooked on researching just words about magic as best I could in the library with what was in there. And they had a pretty great library. And I kept coming across these ideas that were really funny about sorcery. And so one of the definitions coming from the church was like magic done with and I kept finding this thing, pretend to help of evil spirits. So it's like, oh, they pretend to help, but they don't really? Because that would be giving them too much power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I came to kind of this hybridized point between that and this word Vardlokor, which gets translated in lots of different ways. And it's kind of the root to the idea of warlock, some people think.
Oh, interesting.
And other people disagree. And what I got to in this totally bastardized, I am highly untraditionally educated, I left school when I was 15, definition was one who performs magic by laying out lots.
Mm-hmm.
Not one who draws lots, but one who lays them out. So this would be like taking your tarot deck and going, this is what I want to happen. What is the reading that shows it happening? Lay out that reading and enchant that reading and journal that reading and link it in. This, to me, is sorcery, which is the subtitle where I get the subtitle of Weaving Fate, which is, about telling true lies.
Right. That's your second book.
Yeah. And so one of my definitions of magic is that magic is telling true lies. There's a thing we want to be true. It's not yet, but we perform these ritual actions as if it is.
Mm-hmm.
And this sets those wheels in motion that allows it to become real, perhaps just in a faster time frame or in a slightly different form. And so that's why I started using sorcery. And the dirt bit was strictly about the body. Like, no, we're not unclean beings. We're made from dirt. And I refuse the whole kind of body-spirit split. I think it's just pure crap.
Same. Ugh. There's so much I want to respond to. First, I want to really highlight that throughout the book, you use language that is like very romantic. And I love it so much. I'm going to just throw some quotes at you, again, quoting you to you. You say, sorcery, if I may say so, is so much like falling in love as to sometimes be the same thing. Later, you write, this is magic, and if done with intention and devotion, it should feel a bit like falling in love. And then your definition of magic is that it's the art of falling in love with the field and its inhabitants. So first of all, we should talk about what you mean by the field. It's capital F, field. And the concept of the field is throughout your whole book and worldview or world's view.
Yep.
And I'd love to hear about why magic is about falling in love with the field. And there's one other one. I know I'm just throwing so many quotes at you, but you talk about beginning to court the in-betweenness of things. I love that so much. So let's talk about this relationship, this romantic relationship between the sorcerer or the witch, the magician, and the field.
So I'm really non-theistic. Like, I don't quite get it in the sense that most people have kind of religious impulses to deity. But I totally work with different deities at different times.
Yes.
Maybe just like 4 months ago, I was in trance and talking to my allies who were kind of always with me. And I finally was like, okay, I've never asked you guys. I view gods as just spirits. I don't see them as different than other spirits. So what's the difference? And the immediate response I got was that they're spirits with cults. Which is not a slur. That's just, understand that cult in this context is very literal and accurate. It's correct use. And I loved that.
So they're basically spirits with fan clubs, essentially?
Spirits with big fan clubs.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. It's very useful. And it's a great way to work with them for a lot of people. And so I've always had this kind of issue with how do I frame kind of this universality and this kind of, to use Starhawk's term, this kind of immanence of spirit without it being anyway theistic. And the thing that I came up with was the idea of the field. And so I define the field as the whole of manifest and unmanifest reality, right? So it's everything. It's everything that's happened. It's everything that can happen. And to me, that's what we're playing with. It's what we are. We're little emanations of the field. We're little phenomena that have arisen and we'll fall back into it. This is why death should not be scary, even though the church wants you to think it is. You're just going back and becoming a different piece of it, And to me, the thing that shifted for me was when I kind of hit the point where I was done forcing it and like I'm pushing and I'm demanding and I'm cajoling. I'm doing all these things that are very common in the language of magic.
Yes.
And I was like, I'm done with that. I believe this is entirely natural. I don't think I'm particularly special. I clearly have effectively massive learning disabilities in some ways compared to how a lot of people work. I don't retain information the way most people do that are writing on this kind of stuff. But what I do is I have this massive, massive love for the world and the world above and the world below and for the dead and for the spirits. And that's my overarching thing, that I write because they have asked me to. I teach because they have asked me to. I'm talking to you because they said, hey, you two should talk. And I'm always going to say yes, And to me, it's like that's the key that the devotional folks have, that those of us that are, and when I say not theistic, I'm being really specific. I'm not an atheist at all. This is about practice. We have to find that connection to heart and to body information because your brain won't cut it.
Yes.
And that's the reality of being a human, is the lies of empire and patriarchy and all of this stuff are saying you can brain through this. And that's always been bullshit.
Yeah.
The brain has very useful abilities, but it will fuck you up constantly. And if you're in tune with yourself which is not easy to maintain. It's not always easy to get there, and it's not easy to maintain for a lot of folks. That won't lie. I think really learning to trust intuition, and if you've had it beaten out of you, courting it and calling it back in is so important. Thorn Coil, I was just looking at the new edition of Evolutionary Witchcraft, and I think it's in there, but it might have been in one of their novels too, as I've read a lot of their novels. It said, the most important skill for kind of the beginning witch or psychic or whatever is that you have to catch the messages, and you can't second guess them, because that will not work. It's things that I see as terribly problematic in the kind of internet era of spirit visits you and you go online and you go to figure out what it is, who it is. You take it to some board or to Reddit or to your online group of people. And the first thing that most happens is somebody says, oh, that's Lilith. Here's how you work with them. It's not even, should you work with them? Is that relevant? Do you wanna? Do you like them? What's your gut telling you? What's your intuition telling you? And so that whole process of if you bring it to that falling in love or even falling in rapturous desire thing, that pulls you out of braining so hard on stuff that's not about that.
Yes. Oh, so beautifully said. Now, I can imagine someone listening to us or watching us saying, how do I do that? How do I fall in love with the field? How do I cultivate this? I keep using the word romance. You don't use that word, but that's the word that comes to mind.
No, it's totally correct.
Yeah, this romance with the field. I get these messages all the time, people who feel like they're out of alignment. They've lost their connection, which I don't believe is ever really true personally, but they feel like they've lost their connection to their magic or what have you. So how can somebody begin to court the field again?
So I'm in a more extreme form of where I was back then, right? So this is 10 years old, and I've been working very hard in that time. Had a massive breakdown.
Oh, I'm sorry.
More recently.
Okay.
It was great.
I knew you were going to say that.
It was fucking awesome. It sucked worse than anything I've ever experienced. And the end result, I'm like, absolutely. Thank you.
Wow.
So I'm going to preach here a bit.
Go off.
If you look at any indication of human society anywhere far enough back, it is entirely clear that our default mode is animism.
Yes.
We perceive the world as alive. We perceive that there is a spirit world. We are aware that the animals are alive and that they have spirits. We are aware that nature is alive and has spirits, that the mountains have spirits and the rivers have spirits. And that everything that tells you that is not so or is a fantasy needs to be rejected, because that's a bunch of bullshit. That's step one. And then get your brain out of it. A really good way that I do my offerings, this is a thing I have people do a lot that can help here, is if you know or have a sense that you have allies or that you have somebody that watches over you, make a space for them. We call this an altar, but it can be anything. It's just a space for it. And set that up and begin offering them water. And if you drink coffee or tea, get a little cup and give them a little bit of that too every day. If you can light a candle, you don't have to tell your landlord. Do that and just say, hey, I know you're there and I'd like to have a better relationship with you. And do this for a week just with that stuff. And then whatever's in your budget, whether that's $5 or $20 or whatever, it doesn't have to be huge. Go to a grocery store that has flowers and good produce and all that stuff, and go in and go, what do you want? Here's the budget. And just wander around and keep your head out of it and see what you put in your basket. Do this as its own thing. Don't do this as part of your grocery trip if you can. Not everybody has enough time to do that. But And so roll in. And usually it's fruit. Sometimes it's alcohol or whatever. Flowers have become a very big thing for me in recent year, really. And then bring this to that space, to that altar, and make it pretty, make it beautiful, whatever that is to you. do not worry about symbolism. The symbolism is another way of translating all this stuff. It's another language. But what we're after is really like that core connect. And if you don't feel anything, just go for beautiful. Because you sometimes don't know. And so go in and pick the prettiest flowers that you see that you want to give to your peeps. You know, I call my allies my peeps now. And bring that to the table, offer it, and you don't have to do anything else. Just keep coming back to that space and being as honest as you can about what's going on. If there's things that are going on that are good, that you are grateful for, give thanks to them, even if you don't know that they made that manifest. Because pragmatically, we're all in this really big system of kinship. They did in some way, in my mind. I should point out that I believe that the allies, when I'm talking about the allies, I'm not talking about a spirit that you found in a book and came to know that way. I'm talking about spirit beings that, like, the description they gave me once when I asked them who they were, they said, we walked in with you and we will walk out with you. So everybody has that. Some people are so jacked up and so messed up because they will not listen to that information. And they will not allow themselves to be held in that knowledge, looking at a lot of world leaders.
Yes.
Because these things do not want any of that. They do not want what has been built. But they're all right there. They're all just totally available. And the last thing that I would say is, like, don't worry about it being poetic when you talk to them. Don't worry about saying the right thing. Don't worry that if you say the wrong thing, somebody's going to get taken out and, you know, grandma's going to die. It's like the levels of interconnection are so vast that we never really know. But that's not the way this shit works. And so what I say is, it's like, if you can come to the table and basically, like, break out the rib spreader and just set your heart on it, and that's all of your pain, that's all of your love, that's all of your need, that's all of your desire. It's all of the stuff that you are ashamed of that you did, or that you have been made to feel ashamed of. Dump all of that at the altar and let it sort there with you and them over time. It won't always stay like that. That to me is the key to the whole thing, is it's like to remove all of this hierarchical bullshit that we've piled onto all of these things and realize that spirit itself is clearly generative in massive levels. Life itself is clearly generative. Everything dies. Everything gets sick. Everything withers. None of this means that you're going to have an easy ride, but you do not have to do it alone. And that to me is just a fucking gorgeous thing.
So gorgeous. On that note, we're going to take another quick break and we'll be right back. This episode of The Witch Wave is brought to you by Blessed Be Magic Jewelry. I've been noticing something lately, especially in the conversations we have here on The Witch Wave, which is that so many of you are drawn to magic that's subtle, magic that's intentional, integrated into daily life, and deeply personal. And that's why I want to share Blessed Be Magic. They craft minimalist, elevated jewelry for modern witches. These are beautiful pieces inspired by powerful symbolism, made to be worn every day. Think witchcraft and goddess charms, talismans, and sacred symbols that feel quietly powerful. Not costumey, not loud, just intentional. And I think listeners here on The Witch Wave will really appreciate that, because so much of what we explore on this show is about weaving magic into the ordinary, into our creativity, and into living with purpose and presence. And Blessed Be Magic's jewelry really supports that way of living. And what also stands out to me is how the witchcraft community raves about their pieces. They have over 3,000 five-star reviews, and again, witches say that these are the pieces they never take off. Jewelry they wear to ritual, to work, and everywhere in between. You can visit blessedbemagic.com to explore jewelry made to honor your path. That's Blessed Be Magic, spelled MAGICK.com, and use code WitchWave for 15% off your first order. This episode of The Witch Wave is brought to you by Zoo's Incense, who make some of my favorite incense on earth. I adore the fact that Zoo's Incense is an all-natural, handmade product, and that all of their ingredients are organic or wild-crafted using whole plants, seeds, roots, woods, tree resins, and tinctures. Zoo's has several incense blends currently available, and each one smells like a sacred temple. They also now have monthly incense subscriptions for you incense heads, and these are discounted over their regular prices. Zoo's also sometimes collaborates with different artists and craftspeople to make limited edition incense burners, and they also offer charcoal, raw aromatics like frankincense and myrrh, and other incense supplies. Now, I love Zoo's Incense so much that I've collaborated with them on my very own Witch Wave Incense Blend, which is inspired by my matron moon goddess, Artemis. It contains such Artemisian ingredients as sandalwood, orris root, myrrh, mugwort, and other lunar herbs, as well as organic ylang-ylang essential oil, and which smells like nectar and ambrosia. The Witch Wave Incense Blend is available exclusively in the Witch Wave shop over at witchwavepodcast.com/shop. So be sure to order your Witch Wave Incense Blend direct from us now. And you can find Zoo's other bewitching incense blends, such as Sun Smoke and Bacchus, on their website, which is zoozincense.com. That's ZOUZ, incense.com. And best of all, promo code WitchWave gets you 10% off of orders from their site. And if you're ordering direct from them, you'll also get free shipping on orders over $60, and this works with the Witch Wave promo code too. So go ahead and check them out at zoozincense.com and use promo code WitchWave for 10% off. Hi, Witch Wavers. I know, and you know, you want some Witch Wave merch. And our print-on-demand merch site is now available through Dashery. So if you want to get different variations of our gorgeous Witch Wave logo designed by Thunderwing, or our Witches Are the Future catchphrase designed by Lara Antal, printed on everything from t-shirts, mugs, totes, stickers, magnets, notebooks, you name it, you can. Shirts come in different styles and fabrics and are available in sizes small through 5XL, so you can order whatever you'll feel you're most comfortable and most magical in. So head on over to witchwave.dashery.com. That's witchwave.dashery.com, or you can click the Dashery link in the Witch Wave shop over at witchwavepodcast.com/shop. Welcome back to the Witch Wave.
This was not written. I have 4 pages of notes here, but just trusting my own intuition. This is not in my list of questions, but you brought up the world leaders and you brought up, obviously, look, we see what's happening. We're obviously in this moment, I believe, of extreme, both like de-evolution and evolution at the same time. It feels, at least to my mind, like some kind of a flashpoint. But maybe that's all a fiction, and maybe we're always in a moment of transformation. I don't know. This time to me feels different, and I wonder if you have any messages or the spirits have any messages about how we navigate this particular time we're in. Or is that just the wrong question because spirits are timeless? And so, you know what I mean?
This is really where most of my work right now is focused.
Mm-hmm.
Where can we go without taking another hour and a half or 3?
We need so much more time.
We might have to do it again then.
Yeah, of course. May this be the first of many.
So there's a few things that I would put forward And this is related to kind of the new book that I'm working on, but also some work that's available. You don't have to be a member of my Patreon to see these posts, but there is a group project or two that we're working on that's related to this. And those I wanted to be totally available to everybody without there being a paywall. The first thing is to realize that what I call empire, I picked that word because it works for both me and my allies. And what I'm speaking of is the impulse to dominate and control and extract what you need through violence and coercion from other people on any level. So the abusive motherfucker in a relationship or a family, that's empire at work.
Yes.
All the way up, right, to what we see when we have these kind of global things. And so in our language, we're saying that empire is the root impulse that sits behind things like colonialism, patriarchy, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia. Empire's power comes through its complete severing of itself from the knowledge of kinship with others and with the others, with the spirit world, with the natural world. And so realize that that is a very long thing. That's a very big project. And so we need to be thinking real multi-generational here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about what happens in my lifetime or even my grandkids' lifetime, because it hasn't been good for a really long time, right? For the majority of people.
Mm-hmm.
And realize that that's a pathology. It's an actual spirit sickness. And you can find folks from, I think it was Russell Banks or Russell Means. I can't remember which of the two of them because I was looking at so much of their stuff at the same time a million years ago, really talking about that they believed that there was essentially like something functionally wrong with European folks because they could sever themselves from that sense of kinship so much.
Yes.
They just couldn't come up with another idea. Like there's actually some kind of sickness that you people can get, right?
Wow.
And mostly it runs through men. It runs through them worse. It's not strictly that. It's not strictly a cis male thing, but that is where it's most rampant and seems to be who is most open to the contagion. And viewing it as contagion is a really good step as a magician, right? It's something that you can catch. You can catch that othering. And we can look at the last 50 years in the United States. This is something that folks like the Heritage Foundation realized, like, oh, we can actually infect people with this.
Yes.
And it will get us where we want. And so reject all of it is step one. Realizing that we are massively powerful, but that doesn't mean we can fix anything. Because there's stuff that is so big that it's going to play out. Really looking at, do you want it to go back to where it was just black and brown people getting shot in the streets and that was okay? Is that what you're looking for? Because that's not what I'm looking for.
Same.
Right? I'm not cool with this happening anywhere. I don't want kids in mines in Africa dying in there. I don't want what's happening in Palestine. I don't want what's happening to the Iranian people.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they are also suffering under this thing, right?
Yep.
All of that is really important to have. And then to really go and focus on the things that have tangible outputs. Like, don't worry about being performative. You don't have to do the same thing everybody else does, but where can you help? This is my biggest sphere of influence. So I talk about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who listen to me, as unexpected as that was. And so I keep talking about it. And I think one of the things that's, and this is just to tie it into the project that is available, we have a project going called After the Fall. And After the Fall is related to the work in Weaving Fate. And Weaving Fate deals with a few things that are all interlaced, but one of them is a long-form journaled form of magic. It's a magical diary, but it's not the magical diary of what you do. It's the magical diary of the world you want to inhabit, recorded as if it's the daily diary of you living that. And so After the Fall is kind of an invitation to write the world that actually works after all of this fuckery is done. and we don't worry about how we got there. Because the biggest issue I see in the world right now is that all of the narratives are controlled by empire because big money controls all of it, right?
Yes, yes.
If my books were not published by me and one other person for the previous 3 and then me for the next ones, they would have had to have been changed. That is that function of narrative control under the guise of this is how we make it sell, right?
Sorry, why would they have had to have been changed?
Because I'm trying to do something in the books that doesn't lend itself necessarily to proper formatting and proper ordering of things, that the books are themselves this kind of spell.
Yes.
My books are intended to change you. You have to be willing. They're not like trying to coerce you at all. I am trying to do that thing that you talked about early on. I am trying to romance you into this view of animist magic. And what I've been talking about lately is kind of operative spirituality. Like, what are you doing with your spirituality?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's one of the biggest pieces missing. Because that idea of kinship, that idea that everything matters and everything is alive, and what we want this week may not be viable for us to have because it will have downstream effects. All of this shit is completely antithetical to empire in all of its forms.
Yes.
To me, I want to kind of court people into this worldview because I think if enough people pick it up, they're fucked because nobody gives a fuck what they want. If we were all actually not so locked into the struggle that has been generated, we do not need to be in this much of a struggle here.
Mm-hmm.
We have incredible resource. There's like a great new study that came out of Switzerland really showing that we could radically downshift energy usage to like half of current levels and upraise the general well-being of everyone on the planet to a very high level.
Yes.
It just doesn't make any money and you can't have billionaires, right?
Yep.
So to me, this idea, I do actually believe that magic, and particularly this kind of spirit-based, kinship-based, realizing that you're going to eat somebody, whether that somebody is a vegetable or an animal, because everybody here eats somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to find ways to do that ethically. You have to use our brains to realize that this thing called ethics exists and that there are correct ways to do things and there are incorrect ways to do things. I think that magic and animism can actually make a radical change here. And one group of spirits have been working with, and maybe we'll have a book out on later, they're very rough, but they're really fascinating. They're old women from pre-modern times.
I'm already into this. Tell me more about these magical old women.
They have radically informed my thoughts about empire and all of this stuff in the last year and a half. And interestingly, they came in 9 days after the election that reelected our president currently.
Mm-hmm.
And underneath kind of what was initially very, very hot and fiery and overtly destructive kind of stuff, once they realized that I was kind of on board with the core, I was like, what's the answer? And they said that the answer is radical intolerance to empire at every level.
Ooh, the chills I just got, Aidan.
And so it is literally that. It is you cannot abide the man that beats his children or the woman that beats their children. You cannot let them have power because it's not that power corrupts absolutely. It's that those that have a predilection to be corrupted, power always will.
Yes.
And so you cannot let them have power at all. So this is beyond that. This is why we can see the insanity happening in the United States, where they're looking at, let's see who we can disempower. That's pathological bullshit. And it needs to be viewed that like, no, you are sick.
Yep.
You are sick in the head, and we will not allow you to do any of this. And that has to run from the home to the neighborhood all the way through. Otherwise, you get what you get.
Yep.
And so it's interesting. One of the conversations I had, I call them the queens, dealt with this in a really interesting way. And they were basically saying, like, look, in very old tribal cultures where we came from, it was pretty straight up. Like, if you got too off the chain and were doing damage to the people or the ecosystem, the elders would basically come and get you. This was not a thing you figured out. Whoever spotted it figured it out, and they went and got you and hauled you in and said, you are off the handle.
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing damage and it has to stop. And this is a sickness, and we have medicine to cure this, but you have to let us do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, you were outcast. This was very bad at that point in time. This is like, we think about outlawry now as we think of it as like sons of anarchy. We have chosen to live outside the law. And that's not what that ever meant initially. What it meant was that the laws that protected everyone no longer protected you.
Mm.
Like, you were immediately switched from perpetrator to target.
Yep.
And so, yeah, radical intolerance for empire in all of its forms is a big piece of it. And being able to and willing to go, okay, one of the things that people were having trouble with after the fall was like, I can't see the better place in my lifespan. And so the thing I've suggested there is like, what if it's not that? What if you reincarnated in 50 or 100 and 1,000 years? Can you imagine a better world in that? Write that.
Yes.
Because we have to take control of that narrative that everything is fucked and that there's not enough and that somebody's out to get somebody always. It's like, no.
Aidan,
we just have to deny the predators their power.
I'm so glad you said that because I have a zero doom policy. I don't want to hear that we're doomed. We are literally making the world. And so if you think we are doomed, you are not contributing to making the world the hopeful, lush, romantic, just place that I think most of us really want to conjure.
And it's, I think, really important to look at things in a really big picture, because one of the things that I say sometimes is that we are the dead walking. And I mean that entirely literally. Like, we are our ancestors. We're the output of them. Like it or not, some of mine are fucking horrible and I have nothing to do with them. But we're also made of the minerals and the proteins and all of this that were once dinosaurs. That's in you.
Yep.
It didn't go anywhere, right? And so realizing that, what do they call it? I don't know whether they call it pinch points or bottlenecks. Like, there have been multiple bottlenecks just for humanity where they know that we got reduced to something like 3,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think there was another one that they think was larger that was maybe 15,000 people, right? So we look at that, we look at the mass extinctions that have already happened here, and then new forms have regrown. I think we have to start thinking that way, that our time will come, but it shouldn't come the way it's coming right now, and it doesn't have to.
Yes.
And so we need to be really fucking just like, no, not doing that.
Yep.
And I think it takes work because we have become enchanted with dystopia, and we have become enchanted with the doom, and we have become enchanted with the zombie apocalypse, right? All of these tales of how bad it's going to get.
I know.
And we need to flood, like, literally, like, the collective unconscious, and it could go really fucking beautifully.
Yes.
So let's do that.
Ugh. Aidan, exactly. Well, listen, I think that is the perfect note to end on. I wish so much we had more time, but as I said, this is the first of many. You are someone I feel such a kinship with. We didn't yet get to talk about your beautiful idea of the net that we're all connected to, and you have this beautiful notion of like these different nodes of the net and how we vibrate and find each other. So let me just say, I'm so grateful that my node and your node are a bit closer together now. Let me ask you, people are going to want to study with you, learn from you. What is the best way for people to connect with you beyond your books?
I am pretty much entirely on Patreon at this point. We've got about 600 people in there and in a Discord attached to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool space. It is very trans positive, queer positive, women positive, zero tolerance for any aggressive bullshit. We just kick those people out, and usually they figure out before they start that it's not going to work there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know. There's probably 70 hours of me talking on doing Q&A. You know, there's a deep dive on sigil magic in there that way. And then I will be running a course that I ran early last year, starting in at midsummer, called Building a Practice, that is basically a 4-month biweekly course on how I think people can set this stuff up so they have a space to hang out with other people doing it and have a focused kind of core little group of things to work on. That went really well last time we ran it. So that's starting up again. And all that happens through Patreon. I basically have just bailed out on social media. I was very lucky that I saw your thing. So
I feel so lucky too.
I'm not there very often.
Yes, exactly. I DM'd you, and I know that you are trying to divest yourself from Meta and all of those other places, but I am glad that I caught you in that brief window.
And I am on Blue Sky. That's the one I can handle right now.
Yes. And so for people to find you on Patreon and Blue Sky, is it under your name or is there a different handle?
Yep, just under Aidan Wachter.
Perfect.
And that's all linked from my website at aidanwachter.com, but my website is very small now. So,
well, I am so grateful to get this time with you, Aidan. I'm so grateful for your magic and your books, and I can't wait to learn more from you. So thank you so much for being on the Witch Wave.
Thank you for having me. It's a total honor.
That's it for the show. Thank you again to Aidan Wachter for sharing his divine dirt sorcery with me. Do you have questions, feedback, need some witchly advice, or just want to share something magical that happened to you recently? Drop us an email or a voice memo over at witchwavepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and you just might make it on the Witch Wire. Please check out the video of my conversation with today's guest and prior guests over at my YouTube channel at Phantasmophile, and please like and subscribe. The Witch Wave is a Phantasmophile production, written and produced by me, Pam Grossman. We are 100% independently run and proud of it. This episode was recorded and edited by Josh Wilcox and/or Walter Nordquist and myself. Our theme music is the song Hand and I by Lycanthia. Our new Witchwave logo was designed by Thunderwing. Special thanks go to Matt Freeman, Laura Antal, and Cece Pascal. Please pick up my books Magic Maker and Waking the Witch, or the Witchcraft volume I co-edited for Tashin's Library of Esoterica series. And if you want more Witchwave, or you would just like to support the show, please join us over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/witchwave. Thank you so much for listening. Witches are the future. I'll catch you next time on The Witch Wave.